The first meeting is really a get-to-know-you meeting. We're going to sit down. Typically, the meeting will last about an hour. We're having a conversation. My job is to ask them some questions about where they are, what some of their goals are, what some of the key objectives they have in meeting with me, where they are to this point, and really what brought them in to see me. And now I'm at the point in my career where I have a lot of people that are dependent upon me to provide them with all the guidance and all the advice that we do on a day-to-day basis.
You spend your working years trying to build up your assets, trying to build up pension credits at your job, trying to grow your nest egg so that you can one day retire when you can't work or don't want to work anymore. And that's a period followed by phase two, which is retirement. And your priorities in these two phases are very different, but many times we see people don't make that shift and they still act like they're in phase one when they really should be acting like they're in phase two.
We're going to talk to you about what we commonly refer to as the second half of the game. And what I mean by that is you're working your entire life towards retirement, and I'm assuming that most of you are, at that age where you're starting to consider some of your options as you move into retirement. And as you do that, you're moving from what we call the accumulation phase of your life, where you're accumulating your assets. Maybe you're participating in your company's 401k, maybe you're contributing to an IRA account or a Roth IRA account or some type of retirement vehicle. And now, as you retire, you're transitioning into the distribution phase, or the part where you're going to need income in retirement. So we're going to talk about some different ways to do that with an emphasis on Social Security.
Hi, I'm Barry Waronker, and I'm the host of Financially Speaking with Jeff Bush. I think we have a pretty good topic today for discussion. This is something that could be very, very important to our viewers and could greatly affect their financial world.
Well, hi Barry, and welcome to the show. Actually, this is our third anniversary here of doing Financially Speaking with Jeff Bush here on PCTV. So we're certainly glad to be here today. It hardly seems like it's been that long. And really, not only are we here for viewers in the Pottstown area, but we've also been fortunate enough to have our show go worldwide on the internet on the PCTVnetwork.com. And of course, we always put our shows on our website too, which is informedfamily.com. You're going to be hearing and reading a lot in the next few months on the fiduciary responsibilities of a financial practice such as ours. So we want to spend some time talking about that today. It's really important. I think as we get closer to May of 2017, when some of these new rules go into effect, it's going to become more of, I believe, in the mainstream media. And it basically is a ruling that came down from the Department of Labor on how to manage retirement accounts. So that means anything from an IRA account to a 401k, or it could be a 403b. But basically what it means is that a financial advisor has a fiduciary responsibility, and we'll go into what the definition of a fiduciary is a little bit later. But basically what it means is that you have the obligation to act in the best interest of your customer.
Well, let me ask you a question. Do most people assume when they talk to a financial advisor that the financial advisor is acting in their best interest? And is he required to, or she required to?
Well, I think right now it's the status has kind of been elevated because we have always acted that way because of the way we're licensed as an investment advisor representative.
but when the work is being supervised, it's being supervised as a suitable investment, not necessarily the best interest of the client, best interest of the customer.
So let me ask you a question. So the way it traditionally has been, and people would go to, a stockbroker or a financial advisor, someone that they are looking, to help with their finances, whether it's investing in stocks, bonds, mutual funds, annuities, things that are going to help them. But up until this new law, this new ruling came into effect by the Department of Labor, when you did go to see this professional, they were only required to recommend an investment that would be suitable, and suitable is a pretty broad, catch. What is suitable? I mean, obviously, I guess it would be if an 88-year-old lady came in and the broker recommended some tech stock that was risky or some very risky type investments that could pay off but would take years and years, that might be deemed, depending on its face, as unsuitable. But it's then a different standard would be to say this is going to require that the person, the financial person, recommends something that's in the best interest of the client, and they put the client's needs ahead of their needs and ahead of their company's needs, ahead of everyone's needs. The client would come first.
Yeah, and really, I mean, when you really come down to it, I mean, that's the way you should be operating. I mean, that's how you should be managing your practice. But unfortunately, that hasn't always been the case, and there's been, a lot of discussion, and of course, we can debate whether it makes sense for, the Department of Labor to come in and govern us, who, really typically hasn't really, we're under the guidelines of FINRA.
FINRA being
FINRA is part of the SEC.
Financial Investment National Regulatory Agency.
Yep.
Yeah, so it's a little different this time, that this ruling is not coming from FINRA, it's coming from the Department of Labor. So I guess a lot of it stems from the fact that many people have their retirement accounts at their workplace in their 401k, and they're feeding money in, and some type of entity is offered to be the custodian for those funds, and it can be in the tens of millions and even sometimes the billions of dollars that are flowing through from these companies, especially if you get a big company that's got 100,000 employees feeding their 401ks. It's huge dollars. And so the Department of Labor is looking at these things and saying, are the custodians really giving these people value? Are they really charging reasonable fees?
Right.
And all those things are looking at and saying, is this in the best interest of these clients?
Right. Well, and I think that's, you're kind of scratching the tip of the iceberg here when you talk about these retirement accounts, because typically a 401k account, I mean, it's managed differently than maybe an IRA account is once you've already left this, the company, and now you've rolled it out into an IRA, and maybe you've turned it into an income producing vehicle. So the objectives may have changed, the risk profile of that particular investment may have changed, and ultimately the fee structure may have changed to go along with that. So I guess the bottom line here is that you have to make sure that when these investments are turned over into IRA accounts, they're done in the best interest of your client. Okay, so that's kind of what we're coming down to here with fiduciary. And I'm gonna, if we can put this, there's a slide that we have here today that where we define what a fiduciary is. So really, a fiduciary, it's a legal obligation of one party to act in the best interest of another. The obligated party is typically a fiduciary, that is, it's someone entrusted with the care of money or property. It's also called a fiduciary obligation. So in the past, you know, the way when I first was introduced to the term, it was probably when I was in college and I was studying business law, and you know, you come down to, I guess in a simple example, you talk about you're the executor of a will, and you have a fiduciary responsibility to carry out the wishes of the deceased. So that could mean anything from opening and closing bank accounts, selling property, you know, could be making investments, but it's the disposition of assets acting in the best interest of the beneficiaries.
So I can see why you know, people when they speak to a financial advisor, they might assume that financial advisor thinks that way, that they're going to be a fiduciary, that they're going to put their needs first, and they're going to recommend investments that are benefit the client. But what we see in many cases, they're not acting as a fiduciary for a number of different reasons. I mean, we always have, and we will continue. The law was really not going to affect us to any great degree because we're already acting that way for our clients. But for people that maybe have dealt with an insurance agent who may not be licensed to sell securities, advising them to put money into an insurance product, that's not acting as a fiduciary, and certainly that's beyond the scope of their licensing. But it happens, and there's a number of reasons why it does, and many of the brokers who've operated for many years with that suitability standard, they might have a hard time managing with
yeah, and I think it goes beyond that, and it still remains to be seen how it's all going to shake out, because a lot of it's going to have to do with how institutions are going to offer products. For example, just last week, one of the major wirehouses came out with a standard or a ruling that they were no longer going to allow commission-based retirement accounts, that all the retirement accounts were going to be fee-based. So you can really question whether this is really going to benefit the consumer. I think in the long run it will ultimately benefit the consumer because there's checks and balances in there, but there could be cases where it drives, it could drive a client into paying fees where they otherwise weren't paying fees if they were maybe in a commission-based account where there just weren't a lot of commissions being generated. But I think the wirehouse took the position that they didn't want to be left vulnerable and subjected to, I guess, litigation if they determined that these trades that were inside of this commission-based account were deemed to be, you know, not in the best interest of the client. So it's a very gray area. So I guess what they're trying to do is, you know, make it more black and white. And if you just charge a fee in that account, then you're theoretically you're charging a fee for providing advice that would be in the best interest of your client.
Well, that's really important, that anybody who's working with a financial advisor, you really should make a point of asking them, are they a fiduciary, or are they only acting under the suitability rule? And they should be able to give you a clear answer, and you should be able to check on that. FINRA has a website. If you go on FINRA's website and click on Broker Check, you can find out about any broker that's licensed and doing business in the country. But find out about your broker. Are they a fiduciary? I know we kind of got into being fiduciaries because of the way we've operated over the last 16, 17 years now. We originally were working inside an agency, working for in essence, an insurance company that had a brokerage operation as well. But we were employees of a brokerage operation, of the insurance company, rather. And Jeff, I want to talk a little bit about what that relationship's like and why it led us to become Informed Family Financial and not have that, not be tethered to a company.
Yeah, so this triangle chart that you see here, there's a couple of different ways that we have the relationship described. So you have the financial advisor there at the top. So if you're working in a captive situation, so maybe you're either working for an insurance company or you're working for a great big wirehouse. Really, your first obligation is to the company, and when you have that, you go out and you find the clients that are going to fit the bill for whatever the company is promoting, in essence. So you could really question whether that's truly a fiduciary role there, because you're really putting the clients into these maybe products and services that are there to maybe to fill your needs or the needs of the company. And of course, you and I have both been in that type of situation, and we made a long time ago, back in the year 2000, you and I made a decision to break away from that role and really form our own company, which was independent. And that was really a critical difference, because when you're working as an independent, as you can see here on the screen with this yellow arrow, you're really working in the best interest of your client first. Okay, so the client comes first. You go, you meet with your client, you do your planning, and you determine what the best products and services are going to fit the need for your client. Then you go out and you find the proper company that is going to be filling that role. And it could be any one of a number of companies. So you and I have relationships with many companies, dozens of companies. So it doesn't have to be one company. So we're not beholden to any one company. We're working not in the best interest of any company. We're working in the best interest of the client. So that's really, in a nutshell, what a fiduciary role is. Because I think what happens when people hear fiduciary, well, what is that? What does that really mean? Because it's like this big word, and it's like it's not a term that's easily understood. But if you think of it in terms of that last chart that we were showing you, it really means you're putting the needs of your customer first and ahead of the needs of any company.
Right, so the relationship that we have as fiduciaries with the companies is we're not employees of those companies, but we have a business relationship with them where we look at what they have to offer, along with what dozens and dozens and dozens of other companies have to offer, and then find the company and the product that meets our clients' need, not just for being suitable, but for being in their best interest. And it's the reason we left the situation was not because we were, that the insurance company was an evil operation, but we always felt a conflict of interest. We have to keep the company happy. If we don't produce enough of what the company wants to sell, then we're going to be out of a job. And but on the other hand, sometimes what the company has to sell may not be the best version of those type of products, or even a good version of those types of products. And certainly something that's not a good product, it's hard to say, well, that's in the best interest of the client because it's all I have available to me. So I know when we look at our company, we have a very definite way of planning that is different than, say, working for some company and then going out finding people we can sell that company's products to. Our operation is very different. Why don't you go through that a little bit?
Well, yeah. So I think if you go into our mission statement and really who we are, You know, when we wake up and you know, like you talk about the the football team, they strap on the helmet and the cleats and the the pads. Well, for us, it's like when we get up every morning and we put on the suit and the tie. This is who we are. This is Informed Family Financial. So first and foremost, we're committed to planning first. Okay, so
That sounds like a pretty obvious, isn't it, to plan first?
it's not obvious at
No?
all, because what we have found is that when we meet with a lot of people, we meet with some people that have a lot of wealth, and they might have a lot of investments, but they really don't have a plan. And a lot of times that's why they come to see us. They don't have a plan. So we're committed to planning first and then investing later. We put a large emphasis on distribution planning. Okay, we refer to this in our practice as the second half of the game. The second half of the game is played very differently than the first half of the game, where we put a heavy emphasis on how we're going to get income in retirement. Retirement today is vastly different than it was 30 years ago, when you retired with a pension and a Social Security benefit. Now, very few people are retiring with pensions, and you have to figure out what's the best way to take your Social Security, and then you might have a retirement account, a 401k, for example, and you have to figure out how to turn that into a stream of income. So that's called distribution planning. So that's a big part of what we do. And along with that is, there's an education process. The first word of our company is informed family. We're educating ourselves, and we're educating our clients. We do a lot of seminars where the focus is on education. So we enjoy that. That's a very dynamic process. We've had our doors open this is our 16th year. Financial planning today is very different than it was 16 years ago. We've been through 2 major economic recessions. We've been through a lot of legislation, a lot of political changes. So that's all part of the education process, and it's very important to us that we keep ourselves educated and that we educate our clients. We have a firm belief that knowledge is power. If you understand what it is that you are doing, whether it's an investment product, whether it's an insurance product, our belief is that if you have knowledge of these products, that can translate into power. So our philosophy isn't just to say, okay, well, this is what we're going to do and that's it. There's a process where we seek to understand. Our clients understand what the process is. So that's another cornerstone of what we do. And probably most important, I should say, is we're an independent financial planning firm, which means we do not have an obligation to any one company. Okay, we're an independent financial planning firm, Informed Family Financial. We're licensed. We're securities licensed, so we have a broker dealer, USA Financial Securities. Well, USA Financial Securities is an independent broker dealer. Okay, so that's a little bit about who we are and what we do and what our philosophy is. Now, as far as the education process goes, we do have a couple. We're always on the road. We're always taking our message out to the masses, if you will. So we have a couple of upcoming events, which you see here on your screen. call our office for tickets if you're interested. So you can call me. We'll get tickets out to you. You can send me an email. Give us a call. We'll get those tickets out to you. We'd love to meet you. We'd love you to come out and see us.
And those seminars that we offer to people, we hope you do take advantage of it. We talk a lot about Social Security in the seminar. We talk a lot about our subject tonight, which is the fiduciary responsibility that we assume and hold very dear in treating our clients. And I can tell you, so many people will come up to me after the seminar, or I'll talk to them later and say, well, I was really shocked that my advisor isn't a fiduciary. And I want that. I want someone who puts my needs first. I don't want someone who's putting the company or themselves first. So, but feel free to join us at one of our events. We'd love to meet you. And again, today we focused on this fiduciary rule from the Department of Labor. That's it's really going into effect, I think, in April of next year. But it's going to change the landscape somewhat for our business in general, the whole investment business, but also very much so for clients. And if you have any questions on it, you have any concerns on it, please you give us a call. You can shoot us an email at info@informedfamily.com. And if you want any literature on the Department of Justice ruling, we can make that available as it becomes available.
Yeah. Okay. And it was actually the Department of Labor.
That's the Department of Labor. I apologize. Yes. Again, but as information becomes available, we'll be able to send that out to people that request it.
Okay. So a little bit more about who we are. We're sitting here in Pottstown today, and we do have an office right downtown at 152 East High Street. Right on the corner of High and Hanover. We also have an office down in Norristown, right outside of actually West Norriton. So we've kind of positioned ourselves to be, pretty much all over Montgomery County and even into parts of Chester County and even reaching down into the city. So we really enjoy the practice of our independent planning firm. So it was nice to talk a little bit about that today, and hopefully we can meet some of you that are viewing us here today. And we look forward to the next show here on Financially Speaking with Jeff Bush.
Thanks, Jeff.